Green Bay Packers. He and Mike were a tremendous tandem, but he was making the call on the shots of these drafts. And, you know, they made that move with Bonnie Holiday last year, and that was one of the best moves made last year in the first round of the draft. Let's go up to Bristol and join Mark Malone and Ron Jaworski, guys.
Boom, thanks. Probably no surprise. Green Bay goes after a big defensive back. Ray Rhodes, of course, a former defensive back himself. Ron Wolf mentioning that they're in a division there that has big receivers and throws the football down the field. It was what Ron Jaworski and I were talking about when the selection was made. And Ron, you're going to show us exactly why it's important you load up on defensive backs.
Mark, there's no question. Football is a game of matchups. And one thing you're seeing now in the NFC Central are the teams matching up with 3 and 4 wide receivers. You look at Minnesota and Detroit. And we'll take a look at the pre-play here. And here's what you get. You get a wide receiver, 1, 2, 3, and teams could even take the tight end out and make him become a 4th wide receiver. Very difficult to match up against this type of offense, and you need corners. That's why Antoine Winfield is a nice pick. He can match up with Sharper, Williams, Newsome, and Butler, and these are the guys that are critical right here. Your nickel and your dime back, and that'll give your safeties, which could be Butler or Sharper, they can give help on these people. Now your corners, they're the guys that usually get the matchup one-on-one right there. And even at times now, this linebacker in the middle becomes a nickel back. It's a guy, so you may line up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defensive back against this offensive set. It presents some real matchup problems. And when you got a guy like Winfield, who's, again, 6 foot and 190 pounds against those big receivers, it's a real plus. But matchups are the key, and teams can't get enough of defensive backs, Mark.
Jaws, at a 4.5 40, this is a guy that's going to play over the slot. Also a strong safety type, can blitz and cause problems for quarterbacks. And, of course, quarterbacks, a big story here on Draft Day 1999. We're going to come back, and we'll have a lot more here on ESPN as our draft coverage continues.
The Acura Integra, equipped with a race-proven 16-valve twin-cam engine. So it can take you just about anywhere. Quickly. The 1999 Integra from Acura.
The biggest websites, from Amazon.com to Yahoo. And the biggest companies, from British Airways to General Motors, use Oracle for e-business. Do you? The internet is revolutionizing business. From egghead.com to eBay. From E-Trade to Excite. The companies that know the internet best use Oracle for e-business. Do you?
All my life, I wanted to be the Korean Nolan Ryan. Now, I want to be the Korean Big Mac.
Tonight on ESPN, National Hockey Night, Baseball Tonight, and Sports Center. On ESPN2, the 99 NFL Draft, followed by X in Concert and NHL Tonight. And on ESPN Classic, Behind the Fights and College Basketball Classics. Do you have all the ESPN networks?
We are back in New York at the 64th NFL Draft. It's been an intriguing day, certainly at the top, and a lot of teams moving at the bottom. And still getting players that they wanted. Jacksonville is on the clock now. Detroit now coming up because Miami has traded out of the first round. And then the 4 teams, well, then you have New England and then Minnesota, Atlanta, Denver, the heavy metal of last year's season in the National Football League. So Jacksonville is a team that really was looking pass rush here. Is that where they, well, we'll find out in a minute. The commissioner is back, so let's go to the podium.
With the 26th choice, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Fernando Bryant, defensive back, Alabama.
We look at prize, Mel, no defensive line?
that I think the corner was something they felt like they needed. Charles Fisher's name had come up. Bryant had come up. Chris Patrick Kearney as well. But Bryant is a technically sound cornerback. You know, good fundamentals, very experienced. See him here in coverage against Florida, recognizing the pass play, coming off his receiver, making the interception. Here is a kick returner in the SEC against Tennessee, showing his speed and quickness there. Again, anticipation in coverage, anticipating the quarterback first to the ball. I think you're looking at a cornerback who played extremely well early in his college career at Alabama, maybe peaked a little bit early and tailed off some as a senior, played a little softer in coverage than he had as a sophomore and junior, but I think Jacksonville sees a receiver polished, veteran of the collegiate wars, and maybe can come in and help this team. Before, Jacksonville used to go with the big corners. Now they want a true cover corner, not as concerned with size. That's why Bryant comes into the fold.
Well, you know what? For a team that was as successful as Jacksonville, who supplanted Pittsburgh as champs of the AFC Central and were 11-5 and won a playoff game, look at their defensive ranks. These are not the ranks you would think of a team who would be thinking Super Bowl, Joe, so they got to help the defense.
Well, they're certainly not the ranks of a coach like Tom Coughlin. I mean, he's really cured his offense is set. You got the young running back, you got the terrific quarterback, 2 wide receivers. You're set on the offensive side of the ball. You got the big tackles. You're fine there. Defensively, Devon Darius, you bring in Carnell Lake at safety. Those are the people that you're counting on to lead your football team. Aaron Beasley plays one side. Now all of a sudden you got a corner to play the other. Now you're starting to put together the secondary that you need. Again, when you take a look at the National Football League and you look at the corners start to come up here, you're going to see a lot more corners taken. You heard Ron Wolf talk about the fact that, hey, we may take 4 corners in Green Bay. People want to start to focus on stopping the passing game in the National Football game. They want to be able to throw the ball, and they want to be able to stop people from throwing the football. This is a good pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So that's Jacksonville. Let's go back out to San Francisco and revisit the 49ers, thanks to our Sprint video conferencing. And welcome the, 2 years at head coach at San Francisco, our double-digit wins every season, Steve Mariucci and Mooch. McGrew on the defensive line, you made a move to get in there. Were you afraid that if you didn't make a move up that you would not get a premier pass rusher in the early on in the draft here?
Well, our need was to get a defensive lineman, and we liked Reggie McGrew all along, and we felt that moving up would pretty much ensure that he was going to be available at that pick. We didn't want to take any chances with the next 2 picks.
Mooch, update us on Bryant Young, who had the horrific injury last year, and obviously this is one of the reasons you're drafting McGrew, albeit not the only one, and Garrison Hurst, who went down in the Atlanta playoff game. How are they doing, Steve?
You know, they're here working just about every day. I see them, and they're in the weight room and rehabbing with their legs properly. They're working their upper body. They're doing everything they can to be physically ready. It takes time. You know, it not only a lot of rehab, but it takes a lot of time. And that's not the only reason why we took Reggie McGrew early in the round, because of B.Y.'s health. B.Y. we believe is going to be okay for us. We had a need at defensive line, whether B.Y. was injured or not, but we're optimistic about both Garrison and B.Y. actually.
Steve, let's plug in the offensive side of the ball where you're a little more comfortable. Steve Young, of course, wants to play about 18 more years, but Jim Druckenmiller, there's a question whether he will stay or will he go. You brought in another young player. Where does Ty Detmer is in Cleveland? Where do you stand if Steve Young goes down? What are the plans right now?
Well, you know, Steve Young was in our office yesterday. He came in the war room and he wanted to check and see what we were doing, and he called this morning too. And he's telling us that he would love to continue to play. And, geez, he's in great shape. And who knows, he might play for a while, and we'd like that. Jim Druckenmiller is still on our team. He's here working every day along with Jeff Garcia, who we picked up from Canada. And they're doing a good job. And right now, that's our depth, Jeff Garcia and Jim Druckenmiller. And unless something changes, we'll go into the season with them.
Do you think quarterback is a position we might see you go in the next few picks? Could that happen today or early tomorrow?
Well, we don't have a pick now, Boomer, until the 3rd round. So, you know, while everything's possible, and that is a possibility too, we do have some other needs on this football team, particularly on defense. So, you know, we've got to see what's available for us and also consider our needs. And like I say, we still do have more defensive needs.
All right, Steve, thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you a little bit later. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Certainly nobody more personable, and boy, you come into what was a tough situation, theoretically, when he became head coach. Hard to win more than he did in the first 2 years. We'll be back in a moment.
first client before we had our first office.
Back then, we thought my green thumb and my brother's vivid imagination were all we needed.
We didn't count on nights and weekends trying to be bookkeeper and general manager. Before long, I could see we needed help. Financial help.
Someone suggested American Express Small Business Services, so I called. We knew about the corporate card.
But we had no idea it could help us grow.
Right away, we got a handle on expenses.
And when larger projects came along, they gave us the financing we needed.
We got more powerful equipment, brand new computers. We even get discounts on the gas we buy and the packages we send.
1-800-SUCCESS was the best call we ever made.
You know, with the corporate card, we've learned what it's like to have a partner you can count on.
And a brother.
To apply for the corporate card and help your business do more, call 1-800-SUCCESS.
We don't get many shots up there. We get one shot, we're on the ice. You gotta practice good. Let's go! Nice, nice. Breathe, boys, breathe. Hey, what if I was a fan? What are you gonna do? Very nice, very nice. Now do it again.
Ken Griffey Jr., 9 straight gold gloves, 1 dazzling bat. Watch one of the best swings in the game spark a long ball battle in Anaheim. Mariners Angels, the Sunday night game of the week. Tomorrow at 8 on ESPN.
Lots of big pressure coming in from the west. That's going to bring in all that great big sunshine. That's your big forecast. Now, get out there and make it a big day.
It's easy to spot someone who rides a Yamaha Roadstar. With its huge 1600cc engine, it's more than the world's biggest V-twin cruiser.
It's the big stuff.
It's perfect for those little rides into town.
It's the big stuff.
Welcome back to New York as the Detroit Lions are on the clock now, having moved down and then having moved up. So this is a spot that was San Francisco's, now it's Miami's. We have the pick in. Let's go to the commissioner.
With the 27th pick in the first round, the Detroit Lions select Aaron Gibson, tackle, University of Wisconsin.
So Detroit with 2 first-round picks. They get Claiborne, linebacker, USC, and now they go offensive side of the ball. And no one's larger in the draft than him, Mel.
A huge mountainous offensive tackle. You see Aaron Gibson with the split. He has a 20.5-inch neck, wears a size 19 shoe, 47.5-inch reach. Squats 745 pounds, so he's powerful at the point. Here against Jared DeVries, defensive tackle, Iowa. Buries him at the point. DeVries held up pretty well in that game, although. You look at him here against Purdue. Another quick feet for a big man. Pass protection may need some work early on, but he's a dominator at the point. Like I said, quick for a 388-pounder. It's a decent job keeping that huge frame between the defensive end and the quarterback, but that's the area as a right tackle, Joe. Initially, he may need a little work, but I think they know right away as a dominating run blocker to be a right tackle or maybe even a guard.
Well, just think, with Barry Sanders, all he has to do is stand there and force people to run around him. He doesn't even have to hit anybody.
Well, here's a young man, Aaron Gibson, and they say he's pretty quick for 380, but he dropped from 430 to 380. I mean, that is the proverbial Queen Mary losing a deck chair.
What's quick from 380?
He has a helmet 8 7/8, the largest made by Riddell, 18 Triple E shoes. Detroit got a big, big player. A man that can understand big players are Anthony Munoz.
Put a couple windows on Aaron Gibson, and he looked like a big building. In fact, I had a chance to talk to new offensive line coach Bob Wiley of the Chicago Bears, and that's the thing he likes about this guy is his size. He says a defensive lineman will have to take a cab ride to get around him. And we'll take a look at some of the things he does extremely well. You look at him, he's 6'6", 388 pounds. With that size and strength, he just engulfs defensive linemen. Right here, Iowa defensive lineman, Jared DeVries. The next thing we're going to look at is his punch. He has awesome power. He gets both hands in the defensive lineman's chest, and he just knocks him out of the screen onto the ground, and that's not enough. He wants to do it again. Let's knock him down again. And that's what it's all about, finishing the block. Here, this is a pass play. Look how gracefully he moves to the outside. The defensive lineman tries to come to the inside, but he's able to adjust, come in, finish the block. But I truly believe that he's going to struggle with the speed guys on the outside as a tackle. Therefore, they're going to move him to guard, and he's going to be an excellent guard in the NFL for a lot of years because he's going to be in closer quarters. He's going to have the defensive lineman closer to him, and he can dominate when they're right head up on him.
You know what's amazing? Thank you, Anthony. When Anthony played on that Bengals line in the early 80s, which went to the Super Bowl under Forrest Gregg, they were by far and away the largest line. They had Max Montoya. They were huge, and they were barely pushing 300 pounds. Now we have a guard who's 388 less than 20 years later. Wow. Speaking of heavyweights, let's go around the league and start with Sal Paolantonio. Sal?
Here in Cleveland, Tim Couch is already enjoying the perks of being the #1 pick. In New York, he hopped on the private plane of Browns owner Al Lerner and took a personal charter here to Ohio. He's already here in the Browns practice facility, meeting the VIPs, talking to the press, and hopefully soon we'll have a chance to chat with him. Now let's go to Sean Salisbury.
Here in Indianapolis, the Colts get their man in the first round, Miami Hurricane running back Edgerrin James. I spoke to James a little while ago. He said he was just as surprised he was taken before Ricky Williams, but was glad a team had the guts to take him there. And he said with his versatility, he fits this system better than Ricky Williams. We'll soon find out. Now to Andrea Kramer.
Here in Minneapolis, new quarterbacks coach Alex Wood will pick his protege, 11th pick Dante Culpepper, up at the airport this evening. They'll start to work right away on the offensive terminology, go through that voluminous Vikings playbook. Wood told me, I'm a grinder. I got to get right to it. With the 29th pick coming up soon, the Vikings will look for the defensive side of the ball, get some help there. Now let's go to Ed Werder.
Here in New Orleans, I talked to Ricky Williams just a little bit ago. He's on a private plane headed down here. He'll be here in about 3 hours. And he said he appreciates the fact that Mike Ditka was brave enough to give up his entire draft and more for just one player. Said he's not insulted that he wasn't the first running back taken, and he appreciates the opportunity he has. Most rookies don't get to play for the team that wanted them the most. Let's go to Solomon Wilcox.
In Foxborough, the Patriots forego their need for a running back, deciding instead to take Boston College center Damian Woody with their first pick. Here you see inside the war room, the Patriots brain trust showing their elation as they jump ahead of the New York Giants, who they believe would have taken Woody at 19. The Patriots are now on the clock with the 28th pick. Here's Hank Goldberg.
In Miami, Jimmy Johnson doesn't just draft, he plays draft, and he does it very well. In a combination of deals, he traded out of the number 24 spot in the first round and picked up 4 more picks, a 2, a 3, and 2 5s. There's Jimmy and Bob Ackles, his director of football operations. So they are now sitting at number 39 with their first pick, and they will probably get a good running back there. They're comfortable with that. Maybe not a good enough running back to get a private plane ride, though. Let's go to Tom Jackson.
Hank, yes, here in Denver, they still have 11 picks, but they're getting closer to that 31st pick. But I think as they do, we can look for Mike Shanahan to maybe look down into the second round to get more value for the pick. I think the thing we can safely say is that he does not want, as we speak, 11 more mouths to feed here in Denver. So let's just leave it at that. Let's go back to New York.
Tommy, thank you. Patient and dependable in Denver, Tom Jackson. A note on Aaron Gibson just taken by the Lions for me.
Oh, exactly. I'll tell you what, they were picking ninth, and part of the debate that was going on in their draft room was, hey, we want to sign Marco Coleman, the free agent defensive end. If we do that, Bobby Ross was very much in favor of taking Aaron Gibson with the 9th overall pick of the first round, but Chris Claiborne fell to them. They take Claiborne, and when they saw Aaron Gibson available at the bottom of the first round, they traded up. They've shown that they've done very well in the first 3 rounds. They're willing to trade up. Just a big pick for them.
And New England's on the clock?
With a running back. Hey, Kevin Falk, J.J. Johnson, even Cedric Irvin, all running backs. So they got to be picking one here.
New England, Minnesota, Atlanta, Denver, the final 4 from last year, picked to end round 1. Hats on the clock when you come back.
Pull over. Finally, after all these years, thru says we get to spill the dough. We're gonna be rich. In 1 hour, we're gonna be celebrities. We're gonna be...
One more, Grandpa.
Okay, sugar. Smile.
Hon, the Weekly World News is going to be here in 10 minutes.
Polaroid. See what develops.
Excuse me, we got him holding a giant yam. Y'all mind?
Listen here, baby. I have only one burning desire. Let me stand next to feel your fire.
We have in our possession a chip that could revolutionize medicine as we know it. By performing 100 billion operations a second, this chip could help us heal across continents. We could touch more lives and give us more time to cherish life's true rewards. But then we thought, hey, let's use it for games.
3D effects, PC accelerators. So powerful, it's kind of ridiculous.
What is the value of victory? What makes success so sweet? At American General, we help over 12 million people every day live the lives they've imagined. With retirement services, life insurance, consumer loans, and whether they have big dreams or little dreams, the real victory is seeing their dreams come true. American General Financial Group. Live the life you've imagined.
And now on the clock as we return to New York, the New England Patriots and the final installment, if you will, for Bill Parcells' move. Before we discuss that, Robert Edwards, last year, 1,000-yard back with a draft pick. He was just at about this point of the draft. Suffered a horrific injury in Honolulu in a game, Joe, you were up front and center coaching. 4 knee ligaments torn and injured nerve damage, and really was life-threatening in a bizarre beach flag football game. Right. First of all, we wish Robert the best and understand that things are coming along given the situation as well as they could. It's not a question of will he play football again right now, certainly. It's a question of will he be able to just lead a normal life and walk, and we certainly wish our best to Robert Edwards. Now on to football. They thought they had the running back question with Curtis Martin gone, Edwards 1,000-yard back solved. They do not. So the New England Patriots with their second first-round pick, do they go with a back like Kevin Falk, LSU? Let's go up to New England and join Solomon Wilcott. Solomon.
Chris, there are a number of different running backs in this draft, but most feel that only Ricky Williams and Edgerrin James are really deserving of a first-round pick. I talked with the Patriots general manager just yesterday, and he told me that he said, hey, we believe there are some good running backs in this draft, but we want to add some speed to our defense. If you go inside the war room prior to this next selection, Pete Carroll was making a strong case for trying to get a defensive player. I'm told it's going to be Andy Katzenmoyer with the 28th pick. Bobby Greer, the general manager, he said he wanted to get some speed on the defensive side of the ball. So for them to select Andy Katzenmoyer, the linebacker from Ohio State, Chris.
Well, thank you, Solomon. And now, if that is the move, it's a very interesting move for New England, Bill.
Well, it is. I think linebacker was a position you could always use an Andy Katzenmoyer, but you would think running back with Kevin Falk or Rob Conrad or Patrick Kearney to add into the mix at defensive end. But I think when you look at value at this point, Andy Katzenmoyer was projected to be a mid-first rounder, did not have a big-time season in '98. Remember, this was his junior year. Phenomenal freshman season with those 23 tackles for loss, 13 sacks. But he tailed off as a sophomore, then not as productive this past season. When you look at the big cat, look at the productivity in '96 compared to '97 and '98, sophomore and junior year. The drop-off very dramatic, and I think that's the fear factor now with Katzenmoyer. Will he revert back to that form, or will this decline continue? I think when you look at Andy Katzenmoyer at this stage of the first round, he's certainly worth the risk if there is any at this point.
Well, part of the reason that if this is the move, Mel and Joe, is that, Todd Collins, a solid linebacker, not the great player that Ted Johnson is, who they've signed long-term, but he went on to St. Louis. They lost him. So it's a somewhat of a need position.
It is, Chris, but I think Bruschi can play outside. I think he moves outside for you. I talked to one of the defensive coaches in the National Football League. He said he's never seen a linebacker be able to take the punishment that Katzenmoyer has. He doesn't get engulfed by these big, huge offensive tackles. You talk about guys 360, 370, 380. He's big enough at almost 260 to be able to stand there, withstand the punishment, and take on blockers. I think which one of the things Mel mentioned, he may have gotten bored at Ohio State after his first year. He moved around in position. He wasn't real happy. I think that's all that has an opportunity to be behind him. Now he has to get interested again. Certainly, if this doesn't get him interested, having a chance to go there, then there isn't going to be an interest at all.
Katzenmoyer is an intriguing player, and of course, he's the Chris Spielman type, and they kind of have competed weight room, etc. Mike Ditka reportedly was interviewing Katzenmoyer a month or two ago as perhaps someone that the Saints might draft. And he said, Andy, what is your favorite linebacker? Is there a guy that you look up to playing in junior high and high school and maybe college ball? He said, well, my favorite line, figuring might be Dick Butkus or maybe Mike Singletary or Nitschke or somebody, Jack Lambert. The answer was Brian Bosworth. And Ditka kind of went back in his chair supposedly and said, well, why? So I like the way he came out of the tunnel. Andy Katzenmoyer is not a New Orleans Saint. I don't know if that's the only reason, and it's an intriguing story. Does he come out of the tunnel like Bosworth?
I tell you, he's a big cat. And I think, you know, he had that ability as a freshman. He was talked about as eventually being a top 5 pick in the first round. And you look at the big cat, you see the size and phenomenal speed and strength. The physical computer numbers of Andy Katzenmoyer are that of a high first-round draft choice. The big cat. Look at the eyes of a middle linebacker. Katzenmoyer, watch this vicious hit against Corby Jones. That's as a sophomore back in 1997. Here, another opportunity to make a big hit, get to the flanks, and he has 4.49 speed. Here he gets cut. Blocker awareness, somewhat questionable for Katzenmoyer. Spent some time on the ground. Here, though, again, the speed to the outside. This kid can run in space and make plays. Again, won the tackle at the sideline. I think you see ability, sideline to sideline type speed for Katzenmoyer. Certainly the strength and the ability physically to take on those big centers and guards. He just has to learn to get off a block and stay out of traffic.
Well, let's go up to the traffic and the podium and the commissioner for the Patriots pick.
With the 28th pick, the New England Patriots select Andy Katzenmoyer, linebacker, Ohio State.
Certainly one of the most heralded college players over the last few years. So now the Patriots have one of the Katzenmoyer kids. Tom Jackson, you're old enough to remember the Katzenmoyer kids. He's a guy that you have watched play, I am sure, living in Ohio as you do. He's just a hard-nosed sideline-to-sideline player. You love him, Tom?
Well, I think he has tremendous lateral pursuit, and you love the attitude that he eats, sleeps, and breathes football. But what you saw in the highlight package is a player who runs from point A to point B, and that is great. He runs that 4.49, but at times he wasn't able to protect his legs, and so he couldn't get to places and make plays on the football field. So I think there is some technique work that he's going to have to go through. But, yes, he has the potential to be a good player, but I think that in the pros, there's nothing that takes the place of making plays, and I think that's why he wasn't a top 5 choice this year, and that's why he fell a little bit in the draft. Back to New York.
All right, Tommy, thank you. Let's go up to Bristol now to Mark Malone and Ron Jaworski as the Patriots have gone one offense, now one defense with their 2 first-round picks. Guys?
Well, Boomer, I think Tommy Jackson's remarks are right on the button. Joe mentioned the fact that he's a guy that at 258 pounds can take on offensive tackles just fine, but what happens when he's got to take on one of the big fullbacks in that division? And if you have problems with people getting at your legs, that could be a problem in the ISO Bob, Jaws.
Yeah, clearly, Mark, when Tommy talked about going lateral point A to point B, it's real obvious that Katzenmoyer has that ability, but he's going to have to take people on in the hole, in the gauntlet at the line of scrimmage with the ISO Bob. This is what Andy Katzenmoyer is going to face. The Sam Gash, the Howard Griffiths, the Moose Johnsons. And here's basically what will happen. There will be a double team from the guard in the center coming down on that tackle and just trying to blow him out of there and create a gap. You will see this tackle take on defensive end because he has an angle. The tight end will seal off this linebacker. Now, here's where the ISO Bob comes. The back, the fullback on the backer, the linebacker, in this case, Andy Katzenmoyer. The quarterback will turn and give the ball to the running back, hitting up into this hole. Here's where the collision takes place, right there on the big X. And there are talk about Andy Katzenmoyer maybe not being able to take people on. They can get to his legs. If in this hole where that collision takes place, if he can't take people on, he cannot play in the National Football League. And I will say this, in a 4-3 defense, the tempo setter of the defense is the middle linebacker. If Andy Katzenmoyer doesn't have the passion to attack the fullback in the hole, he will never play, Mark.
Josh, you got to have passion for the game if you're playing middle linebacker. Traditionally, that has been the leader on the defensive side of the football. The Minnesota Vikings are now on the clock. Of course, they selected Dante Culpepper earlier in the first round. Andrea Kramer is standing by. Andrea?
Hi, Mark. I think the Vikings now might turn to defense. I think the discussion in the Minnesota Vikings war room is about the best player still available that fits a need, and that could be defensive end Demetrius Underwood from Michigan State. Remember, they're not going to re-sign Derek Alexander. They want to move John Randall inside to his best position, which is under tackle. Demetrius Underwood did not play his senior year at Michigan State. He had a severe high ankle sprain. Denny Green thinks he's past that. What Underwood would do is compete with the newly acquired John Burroughs as well as Dwayne Clemens. He's what Denny calls a big base end. He's explosive coming off the ball. As I said, he's the highest rated player that they have at a need position, and I think the Vikings are considering Demetrius Underwood. Mark, let's head back to you.
Andrea, that would certainly make sense. They need somebody out there to take some pressure off of John Randall. He, the one who gets most of the double teams on that Minnesota front seven. Well, our continuing coverage here of the draft will be back around here in just a short minute as the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock.
Plug into savings on your new DirecTV system today at Circuit City. You'll get free professional installation when you buy a DirecTV system and get 3 free months of DirecTV's Total Choice programming when you subscribe to Total Choice, a value of over $85. Plus, get 1 free month of movies from USSB, a $32.99 value, a combined value of over $300 in free services. Get more movies, more sports, and more value from your TV with DirecTV at Circuit City.
Took me up. Got a date. I better call. Got change. Change. Dial 1-800-CALLATT and call her collect. You pay one low rate all the time. That's called the half pro. 1-800-CALL-ATT. The guaranteed cheap way to call collect.
A fire can destroy everything you've worked so hard for. But there's one person out there who's all about turning things around, getting you back where you belong. Who? Who else? Your Farmers Insurance agent.
The BMW 3 Series sedan from $26,970.
We mill wheat into flour. Process and refine oilseeds in Mexico. Produce sweeteners from corn in the U.S., Brazil, and Europe.
You see this?
And operate 19 meat processing facilities in North America.
Yep. And look what they did with it.
Where these days, there's some good news for everyone. Cargill, it's not just what we do, it's how we do it.
The hair is big, the tube socks are high, and the action is down and dirty.
Can you dig it?
All the moves are on ESPN Classic, roller derby style.
Ouch.
Right on. The forces of good versus some bad.
Shut your mouth.
So join the pack for a crash course in old school. I'm talking roller superstar.
You said it.
Friday and Saturday late nights only on ESPN Classic. To get ESPN Classic, call 1-800-CLASSIC today.
We welcome you back. Our continuing coverage of the '99 NFL Draft, one that will be remembered for the 5 in 12. 5 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks. And there you see where they ended up. The 5 quarterbacks. We'll talk more about our quarterbacks momentarily. Minnesota, which took Dante Culpepper, is on the clock with their latest selection here at the bottom of the first round. And Commissioner Paul Tagliabue's up with the announcement.
With the 29th pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Demetrius Underwood, defensive end, Michigan State.
As Andrea Kramer clued us in, they go with Underwood, the defensive lineman. That is 3 consecutive Big Ten players. The last 2 defensive, Katzenmoyer and now Underwood, Ohio State, Michigan State, respectively. He becomes the second first-round pick. The first one was, as we talked about, Dante Culpepper. In talking about the quarterbacks, Boomer Esiason and Jim Kelly have been breaking it down for us. Let's look ahead for these guys. What will be the biggest shock for the 5 of them come, let's say, August 8th, 9th, when they played their first preseason game?
You know, I think it's going to be the velocity of the game. I think it's going to be the ferociousness of the game and the all-around trying to understand what is happening to me on the football field. You know, it's got to be, can't be force-fed. It's just got to be taken easy. And a guy like Dante Culpepper sits in the greatest spot of all. He's got Randall, he's got Jeff George, he's got Denny Green, he's got Ray Sherman. There's no pressure on him. You know, the Minnesota Vikings, in my eyes, are the big winner here because they have a player that they don't have to throw out to the wolves right away.
The quickness of the game. I talked to Peyton Manning last year. And that was one of the big things Peyton said. That he couldn't believe the quickness. I think going through training camp, you'll know how fast the defensive backs are. Through the preseason, you might think, okay, these guys aren't quite that good. But once Peyton Manning got into the regular season, he could not believe how fast those defensive backs were.
Crystal ball it for me. Given that everyone has a little bit of a weakness that has been discussed throughout this draft and leading up to it.
Well, we all had weaknesses, Mike.
Right.
But everybody had flaws. Even Jim had a flaw now and then.
But everybody overcame them depending on how quick they got to play.
Right.
Who do you think will have the best 1999 when we're sitting here in April of 2000?
No, I can say this one. The guy that does not play.
Well, you know, it goes back again to the situations that each of these guys find themselves in. Sure. You know, you have McNown in Chicago. You know, it's going to be an interesting deal with Kramer there, but that's a good guy to be behind. I think. Yeah, it is. You know, Kramer's will be a good teacher for him.
And that veteran fit's important.
Right, absolutely. And you know, that's another new coaching staff there, so there's no pressure right there right now to win immediately. When you look at Tim Couch and his situation, I think that's a good situation for him. Now, the two guys that I have the most difficulty looking at right now are going to be Achilles Smith and Donovan McNabb. I feel bad for them because they're in tough situations. I think that they're terrific quarterbacks, but I also think that they're going to have trouble adjusting just because of the situations that they find themselves in.
Especially when you have the top pick in the draft. I mean, when you're 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you know you're going to a team that's not very good.
And like it or not, fair or not, just like Manning and Leaf, these guys will be compared every pass they throw in every season they play.
Better believe
in the
absolutely.
NFL. Guys, thanks. Boomer, see you on Monday Night Football during the year. Jim, see you later, buddy. Thank you, boys.
At the child's table.
Our quarterback buddies, a little quarterback round table. Demetrius Underwood was the latest selection, the Michigan State defensive lineman. Atlanta is now on the clock as we wrap up the first round, and we go back to Chris Berman.
All right, fellas, thank you very much for some intriguing insight. Minnesota went quarterback, the first pick in the first round with Dante Culpepper. And this, Mel, Demetrius Underwood. We didn't hear much from him last year, but I guess there was a good reason.
Good reason he didn't play, Chris. Yeah.
I knew there was a catch.
Great reason.
Yeah. High ankle sprain early on during fall practice back in August and did not play. Now, you're looking at the film from his junior year. He had an outstanding junior. He combined with Robert Smith, their other outstanding defensive end, for 20 sacks and 28 tackles for loss. Had 8 tackles against Ohio State, 15 against Notre Dame. So he made his presence felt against top-notch opposition. Productive player in the Big Ten as a sophomore and as a junior. And he's 6'6" and a quarter, 281 pounds. He was a wrestler at the prep level in North Carolina, so you're looking at a good athlete. The fact of the matter is he did not play this year. Had he played this season, you would have been looking probably the mid-first rounder. But I think because of the fact he sat out the season, a lot of people thought 3rd or 4th round. So you could say it's a reach. But the bottom line, especially taking him ahead of Patrick Kearney, bottom line is, though, the kid's a good football player.
All right. Atlanta Falcons, the NFC representative in the Super Bowl, now up. You would think maybe they need a wide receiver replacement for Tony Martin. To the commissioner.
With the 30th pick, the Atlanta Falcons pick Patrick Kearney, defensive end, Virginia.
Well, that's another dart that landed wrong.
Yeah.
Although Kearney is good value there, yes, Mel?
Yeah, he's great value. He goes 1 pick behind Underwood, who was projected to be a 3 or a 4. So you're talking about great value with Patrick Kearney. It
didn't take long for them to make it. They probably couldn't believe he wasn't picked, right?
I think they were surprised that Underwood went ahead of Kearney. But I think when you look at Patrick Kearney, you see him here, 58, a former defenseman on the Virginia lacrosse team. Late developing player, 235, a rangy 235 early on. Now he's up to 265. Very destructive late in the year. 4 sacks against North Carolina, 2 in the Peach Bowl game against Georgia. So he really came on strong as a senior. 21 tackles for loss overall, 15 sacks. He needs some work from a technical standpoint. Added some weight, added some strength. So his best football is ahead, Chris. He really came on strong late this past year. I thought it'd be a mid-first rounder. At this point in the first round, this is a bargain-type pick for the Atlanta Falcons.
It's a bargain pick, not a position of need, certainly. This is the best athlete available situation, Joe, because you know, Atlanta's front four, they were good enough, and part of the reason they got to the Super Bowl is that they didn't ask for help from the back seven. They handled things by themselves. So, best athlete available.
Best athlete available. Plus, the Falcons pick up Chris Callaway to plug the hole at wide receiver till they can come along. Lester Archambault there with 10 sacks. You see Travis Hall in and out, hurt a little bit. Shane Dronette and Chuck Smith having a terrific year at 8.5 sacks. The thing you have to look at, and we saw the Green Bay Packers do it. You see Mike Holmgren do it in Seattle. What you do is you start to add some depth to that defensive line. In Green Bay, they're doing it to the secondary. In Seattle, it's defensive line. Because you get a chance to get a lot more players on the field and you keep them a lot more fresh. That's why I think this is a good pick for the Falcons. They were great against the run. This gives them a little bit more of an edge.
So, there was only team that did a little bit better than the Atlanta Falcons last year. And that's the two-time defending Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos, who are on the clock with the 31st and final first-round pick. We'll go to Denver when we return.
Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. The new Silverado interior is so big, there's plenty of room for seating. And, in a pinch... Mommy said I could ride the pony. Ample room for sleeping. Introducing Silverado, the truck from Chevrolet.
Like a rock. Oh, like a rock.
Now 100% of the people can get on the internet. When you buy a Gateway Essential PC with a 400 megahertz Intel Celeron processor as low as $37 a month, we'll give you a year on the internet. Call, click, or come in. We know the internet is calling you.
So you need a mortgage.
Yeah, but we don't really have any, collateral.
Well, no collateral's really not a problem for us. In fact, that's our motto. All right, once you sign here and you're all set.
This is actually more than we need.
I threw in a little extra.
So what's the interest rate?
0, if that's comfortable.
If getting a mortgage were this easy,
You need a bag for this?
you wouldn't need Century 21. Real estate for the real world. Ask about our Connections program. For an office, call 1-800-4HOUSES.
All my life, I wanted to be the Korean Nolan Ryan. Now, I want to be the Korean Big Mac.
Sports Century's 50 Greatest Athletes, a year-long celebration. Number 39, Walter Payton. Friday at 10:30 on ESPN. Presented by General Motors.
Back in New York, where the Denver Broncos are on the clock, and now best athlete available board, Mel Kiper.
Well, some good offensive tackles, Chris. John Jansen, an outstanding right tackle. I think you look at Cecil Collins. Be interested to see if Miami can move into the second round, acquire his services. I like Mike Peterson. No, he doesn't have great size, 6'1.5", 233, but a great coverage linebacker and every down player. Sean King, Tulane, be a great second-round pick for somebody in Tampa Bay. Some other teams looking at him possibly. Peerless Price has some return skills as well as being a big play wideout. And Charles Fisher, big corner with some recovery speed, really came on strong as a senior. Cameron Spikes moved up after a great individual workout to seize that top guard spot. Poindexter has to see if he has to sit out the year or he'll be back with the knee injury. And Kevin Falk, running back, has also some kick return skills.
Those are the players that the Broncos are looking at, or maybe someone else. We'll go to Denver with Tom Jackson when we return.
They lost pretty much everything.
And we were thinking, are we next? I wanted security I could really feel.
Protect your home and family with Security Link from Ameritech.
Complete peace of mind. 24 hours a day.
It cost a lot less than we thought.
Call now and pay only $99 for installation of our advanced wireless security system. That's a 50% savings. Plus, you'll get this convenient remote control absolutely free.
So easy to use.
Security Link, a complete home security system you can trust. That's 24-hour monitored protection for less than $1 a day. Plus, for a limited time, a free remote control. A $69 value.
Now everything's protected, whether I'm home or not.
Security Link from Ameritech. Call 1-800-698-1939 to save $100 on installation and get a free remote control. Hurry, offer ends soon.
Goody's Body Pain 500 tomorrow at 1. NASCAR on ESPN.
Rick, this is Jim Hopkinson, a producer with ESPN Fantasy Games. Rick, you're a fantasy baseball owner. You going on strike is not going to bring Mo Vaughn back to the Red Sox. Take that up with their management. This is a business line.
That's Ursus Arctos man, grizzly bear, about 1,200 pounds. Try and act confident. Show your teeth and snarl. It should trigger his flight instinct. If that doesn't work, walk directly up to the bear and box him on his ear.
Are you a forest ranger?
No, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Over the years, a lot of businesses have put their names on one line of trucks, the one that's overall the most powerful line of pickups on the road, the one that was first to offer quad cab versatility, and the first and only full-size pickup to receive J.D. Power & Associates' Most Appealing Award 4 years running. We understand this name thing. We're pretty fussy about what we put ours on, too. Dodge Ram. The rules have changed.
Welcome back to New York. And, you know, they're punchy about 5 hours in. But the Denver Broncos, who picked Marcus Nash, wide receiver, first last year at the bottom of the first round, now have made their selection.
With the final pick in the first round, the Denver Broncos select Al Wilson, linebacker, Tennessee.
Well, Tennessee, 2 years in a row in the first round for the Denver Broncos. Al Wilson.
He's an experienced football player. See the productivity, 77 tackles. Form tackler. You watch his productivity, you see a lot of plays in the backfield. Number 27 here, not great size, so he could get swallowed up as a middle linebacker, but maybe as a weak side linebacker might be the best fit in the NFL. Here you see the range in pass coverage making the play. They'll play inside if you can protect them in maybe a defense that allows him to freelance a little bit. Here against Syracuse, coming on the blitz, gets after Donovan McNabb, creates the turnover. Here against Florida, Doug Johnson into the backfield, makes the play. Interception here. You're talking about a very active, alert football player who does an awful lot to help you win football games. Enthusiastic, loves the game. Question is, on the outside, is he big enough to hold up there, possibly at weak side? Middle linebacker could be a little too much. I think you have to find the right spot, allow him to carve his niche. But Al Wilson, you can protect him, Joe. He can make plays. He can move sideline to sideline, doesn't get caught up in traffic. And you know, late in the first round, he was productive at Tennessee.
It's the luxury that you pointed out. When you're the defending 2-time world champions, you do have the luxury to find players you can fit in to certain key situations, to specialize, really, and utilize their talents as an outside rusher, as a cover guy, a guy with good hands. It gives that linebacker core nice depth in Denver. And that's the thing I think Mike Shanahan wants to continue to do, is just keep on feeding and finding replacements for depth. Romanowski's getting a little older, so maybe a couple, 3, 4 years, you start looking at this guy coming in and playing.
You know, there's a pretty good perspective on linebackers in Denver.
Tell us who.
Well, let's go out to the Broncos now and see. I want to see the smile now on the face of Tom Jackson. Linebacker, first-round pick. Tommy, it's you a generation later, perhaps.
Well, 5'11", 239, probably a few more pounds than I had. But, you know, we talked about Coach Shanahan wanting to add some speed and some depth to this unit. Al Wilson is going to do that. Certainly won't come in and start, but he will be a contributor on special teams. He has a high RPM motor, a high impact player, and I think that, as we heard earlier, sometimes got swallowed up a little bit on the inside, or there was the possibility of that in the pros, but you put him on the outside, you let him run and go hit people. I think he's going to be a high impact player for this team. Now let's go to Andrea Kramer, who has Dennis Green with her.
Thanks a lot, Tommy. Dennis Green has made his second selection of the first round. You get another big body in Demetrius Underwood, but who is this guy? A guy who didn't play last year because of the high ankle sprain. Some even projected him to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. How do you know what you're getting with this guy?
Well, I think you base it on how a guy actually played. His freshman, sophomore, and junior year, he played very well. He hurt his ankle this year. He didn't play, and he was actually going to come back for additional year. He's a big physical football player. I think there are some people that had him rated later, and some people had him rated earlier. We were clearly one that had him rated earlier, simply because we did not penalize him because of the injury.
Let's take a look at how your defensive line configures at this point. Where do you see Underwood fitting in or competing?
Left end. He's a 6'6", 280-pound player, so he comes in at left end and competes for a job against John Burrow or Stalin Cullinae. Dwayne Clemens' primary plays on the right side. The big thing this does, it enables us to keep Johnny Randall the all-pro player inside. Last year we had to move Johnny outside. He did a great job for us. He's clearly a warrior, but now we can keep Johnny inside, and we have enough players to play outside at defensive end.
What makes you feel confident that he does have the mobility to put his moves on?
Oh, because of his size and his quickness. He's a very quick player. He has, in fact, one of the most impressive workouts that you've seen. When you look at Dante Culpepper on the hook, and you look at Demetrius Underwood on the hook, these are two very physical-looking athletes, two of the best in the entire draft.
All right, Coach, thanks very much getting the two players you won in the first round. Now let's head to South Antonio.
Andrea, in the war room, Chris Palmer and the rest of the Cleveland Browns Brain Trust were very upset when Patrick Kearney was taken off the board. But then Tim Couch came into the war room, started wandering around. He said, "Don't worry about it, Coach. Just get me another wide receiver." And it looks like that's the direction that the Browns are going with their second-round pick. Kevin Johnson of Syracuse is somebody they very, very much like. They're intrigued by his speed, and they really need some help at wide receiver. Remember, they picked up Leslie Shepard in free agency from the Washington Redskins. They have a couple of picks from the Eagles, Mark Say and Freddie Solomon in expansion draft. But Chris Palmer really wants to run the kind of offense that he ran when he was the offensive coordinator in Jacksonville. So he sees Tim Couch as Mark Brunell and maybe Kevin Johnson as a Jimmy Smith. Now let's go back to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Sal, thank you. There's an expression in sport, let the big dog eat. Well, after a couple years off, the big dog is eating again. The Browns are on the clock, and the dog pound is ready. We'll be back with the second round in a moment.
Before you can throw like an MVP, catch like an all-star, or hit like a Hall of Famer, you'll have to work like a Gabe Kapler. K-Swiss.
Welcome to Taco Night at the Andersons.
Hey, it's a steak marshmallow man!
Taco Night is also movie night at the Andersons.
Get a coupon for a free Blockbuster video when you bring home the new Grande meal from Taco Bell. It's a mountain of food for just $9.99.
1, 2, 3, awesome!
Wow, let's make s'mores.
Until next time.
The zero-pressure Michelin. So revolutionary it won't go flat, even with the puncture the size of a golf ball, letting you drive up to 50 miles at 55 miles per hour. Just what you'd expect from Michelin.
For great advice about digital technology, head for Circuit City. If you're looking for a DVD player, make sure you choose one with DivX. Only DVD players with DivX play both DVD and DivX movie discs. DivX lets you watch movies at home for about what it costs to rent, but you never have to return movies or pay late fees. This RCA DVD player with DivX is only $349.99. And get any 5 DivX movies free after rebate. Plug into DivX at Circuit City.
My big sister, Susie, was my idol. And when she was 33 years old, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She looked at me and said, "You have to promise me you'll do everything you can to fight this disease." In our family, we were taught to take care of each other. I'm fighting for a cure. I'm doing it for Susie. Who will you do it for?
Second round, the Cleveland Browns top this round as they do all of them. A moment ago, Gene Washington with Cleveland's pick.
With the 32nd selection in the second round, the Cleveland Browns pick wide receiver Kevin Johnson from Syracuse.
Well, Mel, he doesn't have to change uniform or helmet. I mean, they wear the same thing at Syracuse.
They'll look good in that brown uniform, Chris. You look at Kevin Johnson, the kid who was a quarterback coming into Syracuse, plays the backup to Donovan McNabb. then move to wide receiver after McNabb sees the position. Here against West Virginia, adjusting to the poorly thrown ball, makes the catch. Here, Donovan McNabb puts it right on the money, and then after the catch, Johnson makes people miss, gets it into the end zone. Here, takes the option toss from McNabb, turns the corner against Michigan into the end zone again. You look at the hands. This is a kid, like I said, still a little limited experience at wide receiver, but good hands, very confident. Here's a kickoff returner against the Miami Hurricanes. He's going to take it all the way and turn on the jet here in the broken field. The defensive back's not going to be able to catch him. So it brings the versatility. If he struggles a little early because of that inexperience at wide receiver, you can work him in as a kick returner. Average 30 yards per kickoff return this past season. And despite that limited experience, he's still, I think, a very polished wide receiver coming out of Syracuse.
Listen to you do a highlight saying he could go all the way. What's the matter with you? Now their cross-state rivals, the Cincinnati Bengals, make a pick.
33rd selection overall, the Cincinnati Bengals select defensive back Charles Fisher from West Virginia University.
Good pick. Good pick, Mel. You talked about him a few picks ago.
Yeah, I thought for Jacksonville at that point, because he's 6 feet even, and he came on strong as a senior. Fernando Bryant did it over the long haul at Alabama, but this season, I didn't think there was a better corner out there except for the top two. Bryant, certainly had a good year, but I think overall, you look at Charles Fisher here, anticipation and toughness. 6 feet even, so he can hold up against those big wideouts that Joe was talking about. And I think certainly as a senior, stepped up from a technical